Hi, and welcome to the Jam Gamecast. My name's Matt, and I'm your host. Along here with me is my co-host, Jim. What's up, Jim?
Oh, not too much, Matt. How's it going?
Pretty good, pretty good. Now, we hadn't done a show in a while, but this is sort of like our end of the year show, and this is sort of going to be our Game of the Year episode. But our Game of the Year is going to be a little different. We're going to talk about our top 5 games that we played this year. So it's not necessarily our top 5 games that were released this year, but it's going to be the games that we actually sat down, played, and beat. So yeah, that's all I have for an intro, really. So we'll dive right into it. Jim, what's your number 5 game on your list? Best games that you played this year?
Okay, my number 5 would have to be Pokemon Sun for the Nintendo DS.
Good pick, good pick. A lot of people like that game. Tell us a little bit about it.
It was I kind of liked and did not like it for this specific reason. The reason was the fact that it was kind of got away from the whole gym leader thing, and it had these more like island challenges, which was a lot of the times you weren't really battling against a lot of trainers. It was more against like wild Pokemon, which I thought that was a little weird. But again, it's something that they I'm happy that they tried something new to get away from the traditional go to this gym and beat the gym leader and go to that gym, because every region that you travel to, pretty much all the gym leaders are the same type. You have a grass gym leader, a rock gym leader, fire, water, and so on. So I thought it was pretty interesting, to see how they did that. And, I got through them all pretty quickly. So that was another thing, I didn't feel that it was too difficult as opposed to challenging a gym leader per se.
So you enjoyed the little change up that they did. I know some people talked about the fact that they actually didn't like that about the game. They didn't like that they changed the format, and they didn't have gyms necessarily that you went to. But that's what you seem to have enjoyed about the game.
Yeah, it was something a little bit different. Than basically just being a carbon copy of the game previous, with just new different Pokemon, because the stories of the games, pretty much have the same type of preface. There's like this evil team that's, like trying to take over, whether it's, like Team Rocket or Team Flare or whatever, whatever name they come up with. So you go through and you beat them and thwart their, evil plan. And then you beat the gym leaders and you beat the Elite Four. I mean, the Elite Four were in this game as well. And it was kind of like, you kind of also followed along with the story of the professor who runs the region, kind of trying to start up the Elite Four and, maybe try to start, a traditional Pokemon league with gym leaders. So that was kind of interesting. And, maybe I will have to check out the sequels to Pokemon Sun and Moon to see if there are gym leaders in those games now.
Are those really sequels? You're talking about the Ultimate editions,
yeah, Ultra
right?
Sun and Ultra Moon.
Are they sequels, or is it just like a I still don't understand that whole thing with those games. To me, it seems so stupid.
Some of the sequels that they have come out with, I know for Pokemon White and Pokemon Black, they came out with Black 2 and White 2. And according to what I heard, the story of those games took place a couple years, in the future, from the previous games. So there were, some change-ups in that way.
Gotcha.
But I haven't heard anything at all from about the preference of Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon.
Got it. All right, so everybody heard it here. Jim's number 5 pick, Pokemon Sun and Moon. All right, so we'll dive into my number 5 game, and it's actually the first game I played this year. It was a little bit of a change up for me. It's a Vita game, and it was actually like I guess they call it like a visual novel game. And that game is called Code Realized Guardian of Rebirth. It's actually an interesting game. The gameplay is okay. I like the art style. It's more of like an anime art style, so I really enjoyed that. The game itself is just okay, but what I really enjoyed about it was the story and kind of like the concept of it. Basically, the main character is this girl, and you play as this girl, and she wakes up, and she's not really sure what's going on. She doesn't know who she is or where she was, and you kind of meet all these like famous literary characters. Like, you bump in and these people join you, sort of. You run into Lupin, like the greatest thief, or that's what he claims to be. Van Helsing is a character in it. Dr. Frankenstein is a character in it. At one point, Jack the Ripper is like a villain at one part of the game. So there's all these like famous literary characters. Not that, I mean, Jack the Ripper was a real person, but he's also a famous literary character now as well. But they kind of take all these different characters that you never like think of would be in one story, and they just kind of bring them all together. And that was really cool. And it's actually the first visual novel game I ever really played. And I think it was kind of a good story, or a good starting point for them. I know some people say that it's not one of the better games, but I enjoyed it mainly because of what I talked about, the different characters and kind of bringing them in and mixing them all together. Kind of reminded me a little bit of the old comic book, and then it was a movie too, The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Yeah, but that was number 5 on my list.
When you say literary novel game, I'm not, I'm having a little bit of trouble picturing how that was. Is that like kind of like a point and click game? Like, these are your choices, pick one?
Well, it's like a visual novel. I think sometimes some of them do have some aspects of point and click, but that's sort of a different genre on its own. It's more so, it's more so text, and you read a lot of text, but then at different points you get to choose different things to do. Like, at some point you might have a couple of different options, like say this, or do I want to go with this person, or should I stay here, or go with that person instead of this person. So it's stuff like that. So it's mainly like it's like a book you read, but then at certain points you get to choose like different things you want to do in the story.
Okay, yeah, that's what I wasn't too sure, and I was trying to think if it was anything like the Telltale games that have come out, like the Walking Dead game or the Game of Thrones games.
Nah, I would classify those games more as point and click games.
Okay.
Yeah, I only ever played one Telltale game, and that was the Back to the Future game, which is awesome.
Oh, all right.
All right, well, Jim, let's move on to your number 4 game on your list.
Okay, number 4 game on my list is a game I really had a lot of fun playing. Although there were some things about the game that I wasn't aware of. So it was interesting. So I was kind of a little bit bummed out. When I realized those. But number 4 is Diablo 3: Reaper of Souls.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So I mean, I really like playing this game. You and I played this game co-op for a little bit.
Yeah, we did actually. It's a decent game. I enjoyed it. I'm more so into like the JRPG. This is Diablo 3, and all the Diablos are like, they're considered RPGs, but I think they're more in the Western style.
Yeah, I really like RPGs like this that really give you free reign when it comes to character customization. Like in Diablo, there's a bunch of different classes that you could pick, like warrior, Templar, barbarian, mage. and then it gives you a lot of different things to do with weapons and armor, which I always really like that. I always like to try to get, cool looking armors to put on my characters and make them look pretty beastly when they're out there. And I liked it, a lot of the different dungeons that we had to go through and, battle through. And for me, the game was just a lot of, mashing the attack button, because there would just be swarms and swarms of enemies.
Yeah.
Which I really like that about games, though. Helps you get a lot of, XP and a lot of gold. And I really liked the story. I thought the story was very, very interesting. And it was kind of, one of those games that you think you beat the final boss, but then it turns out that no, they weren't the final boss, and you still got a little bit more to go. And I always like that, because sometimes when you're playing a game, it feels like, oh, I already beat the final boss, but then, comes out and you have a little bit more to go. But one of the drawbacks of the game that I wasn't aware, because I've always heard people talk about the Diablo games, like kids in school, and I always thought that they were like an MMO game. How you could just, log on to it and there'd be other people online playing and you could like join up with them.
Right.
It's kind of, more along the lines of like World of Warcraft, which that was like the one thing that I was kind of bummed out about, within the game aspect.
Yeah, and I kind of get what you're saying, because this was really one of the first games that I ever really like went online and played co-op with people. As Jim said, I played with him a little bit, but I also played with our friend Kevin, and me and him were kind of playing this a bunch, and I liked the fact that it was kind of, like you said, you could just kind of sit there and button mash and beat up all the guys. But for me, at least, because, I was playing with someone else and we're kind of like, talking back and forth among ourselves, I found it harder for myself to follow the story. And that was one of the things I kind of didn't like about it. For me, it seems like if I were to play that game, I would probably have to, play it just by myself, so I didn't have anyone else talking to, and I could concentrate on the story. Because I played maybe about, 10 to 15 hours of it, and I have no idea what the story is about or what was going on, really. Just kind of was going through it and button mashing and stuff. My preference is I picked, my character was a monk, because I liked, being able to do the different martial arts battle style and stuff like that. So I always picked the monk. But yeah, it was a decent game. I probably would, and I actually, I own it, but I'll probably actually never really go back to it and play it on my own, to tell you the truth.
Okay.
All right, well, we'll move on to my number 4 game, and this is an oldie, but it's a goodie. It's a PS1 game. I actually downloaded it and played it on my Vita, although I do own the physical copy of the game for the PS1. It's actually a box set, and that game is Arc the Lad. And it's a strategy RPG. When it came out in the US, it came out as a box set, and you could only get it this way, and it's the 1, 2, 3, and then a 4th game as well called Arc the Lad Battle Arena, or Arc the Lad Arena, or something like that. So I remember playing this game. I played it, I think I might have played this one after I beat Code Realize, just because I wanted to play like an older JRPG, an old school one, and I wanted to try a strategy RPG as well. So I played Arc the Lad, and it's a cool little game. It's not very long. It's maybe about 15 to 20 hours long. It's pretty simple, and the story is pretty straightforward. But it's cool. I like the art style. It's sprite based, which was cool. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I probably enjoyed it about as much as I thought it was. It wasn't disappointing really in any way, but it also wasn't better than I thought it was going to be or anything like that. It was about what I thought it would be.
Okay, okay. So I mean, what's that? What was your experience when you had that for PS1? Did you play it a lot back then, or
No,
is that kind of like a game?
I never played this back, back when PS1, was new and I had it as a kid or anything. I never played this game. I didn't, get this game until, recently within the last couple of years. So it was something I kind of came across, more recently. Before I got that box set, well, I mean, I knew what the box set was and I knew the games and I knew when to play them, but back in those days, the PS1 days, I didn't know what Arc the Lad was, and I probably didn't hear about Arc the Lad or know anything about it until the PS2 games. I bought one of the Arc the Lad games on PS2, and I remember not really liking that game. But back when I got back into gaming and I was checking out JRPGs I wanted to play, I checked out these games and they looked pretty cool. And Working Designs did the box set, and anybody that knows Working Designs knows that they created awesome box sets back in the day. It's a really nice box set. So I actually found it somewhere for what I thought was a decent price, so I picked it up. And I love the Vita, and I think it was on sale for the Vita for like $3.99 at some point. And I was like, well, I'll just play it on my Vita. It's a lot easier than getting out the old PS2 and playing, PS1 game on it,
Oh yeah, totally.
All right, so Jim, let's move on to your number 3 game.
Okay, my number 3 is Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance, and this was originally a Nintendo DS game, but I played it on the PlayStation 4 when it came out as a part of Kingdom Hearts 2.8, the final chapter prologue. That was the one where there was Dream Drop Distance, a level featuring Aqua from Birth by Sleep, and then like a cinematic that was supposed to be like a prequel to, Birth by Sleep even. But, Dream Drop Distance is a game about, that you play as both Sora and Riku that are taking their Markov Mastery exam. Basically, Yen, Sid, and Mickey set up this exam for them to take, to make sure that they're ready for, the mantle of Keyblade Master and, the coming, the coming war, I guess, between the light and the darkness, which kind of, has arisen, throughout the events of all the Kingdom Hearts games. So, I mean, I really like this game. Sora and both Riku are put into this kind of magical sleep, and they go to worlds that have been swallowed up by the darkness. So you kind of go back to some worlds from Kingdom Hearts 1, which was fun. You go back to Traverse Town, which was the first place you arrive after Destiny Islands is swallowed by darkness.
Yeah.
In the original Kingdom Hearts. So that was it was a really interesting game, and I liked the way that they did the switch between Sora and Riku. You would basically, how it was, you would play through a level as Sora, and then you would go ahead and play through the level as Riku. And it was interesting to see, how their stories, intersected, but, they weren't, together or affecting one another, directly.
See, now, I did not know that, and I ultimately, I want to play that game at some point. I want to try to play all the Kingdom Hearts games at some point, but I hate when games do that. I hate when they make you play a level or a part of the story or something like that comes on, and then I hate when they actually make you play as another character,
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I know Birth by Sleep kind of has that aspect, but it's a little bit different. You can play through the entire story, and then you can switch over to another character. But I actually like the way that Dream Drops Distance did things, because the way that the story moved, both Sora and Riku were progressing at the same, at pretty much the same pace. like they were going to the same worlds at the same time, but they weren't together. Kind of like what happened, kind of similar to the first Kingdom Hearts game. But it was really interesting to see the new dynamic between the two.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm kind of also surprised that it's on your list because I know it kind of gets a bad rap in the Kingdom Hearts storyline or fans of Kingdom Hearts, doesn't it? Like that's one of the games that people generally don't like as much as the other ones, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I really liked it though probably because of the fact that I was able to play it on PS4. I think I
Okay.
probably would hate the game if I played it on the DS. Although I did play Kingdom Hearts 3.5 Days Over 2 or whatever, the game surrounding Roxas on the DS. And I
Right.
mean, the story was interesting, but it was more for the way that that type of game plays on the DS that I didn't like it.
Okay. All
So
right.
I probably would have had similar issues with Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance on the DS.
Yeah, I can't imagine those games being easy to play on the DS because the DS only has, well, isn't Dream Drop Distance is a 3DS game, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess if you have a new 3DS, you do have two thumbsticks to use. But if you're playing, if you're playing on the not new 3DS,
Yeah, kind of like I have. Yeah.
yeah, you only have just the one thumbstick. So I can imagine that being a pain in the butt to play, you know?
Oh, yeah, totally. It totally is.
Um, But yeah, and I always thought that the storyline for that game was always weird to me because it's like, yeah, Sora and Riku are supposed to be Keyblade Masters, but then all of a sudden, you know, Mickey and Yen Sid are like, oh, well, wait a minute, we came up with this random test that we're gonna make you do, and then you're Keyblade Masters, you know? And it's like, well, wait a minute, I already thought they were Keyblade Masters. Now you're saying they're not, and they have to take a special test? It just seemed like something stupid that they came up with just so they could like make a game, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. But I mean, having played, Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, I was kind of, a little bit familiar with what the premise of the Mark of Mastery exam is. Because that's how some of the other characters like Mickey and Yen Sid fit into Birth by Sleep. So I was kind of aware of that, but I was the same way too. I was like, wait, I thought Sora and Riku have had Keyblades for like at least a couple of years now. You're telling me that they're not masters and they have to do this thing, this test to see if they're a master. But it's like even if they pass or fail, they're still gonna have a Keyblade.
Yeah, yeah, definitely weird.
Yeah, totally.
All right, well, I'll move on to my number three game now. And my number three game is the most recent game I just beat. It's actually the first game I really dived into on my Nintendo Switch. And that's Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle, which is sort of like a strategy RPG. It was made by Xenosoft or whatever. And it's not made by Nintendo. Everyone calls it like XCOM with Mario and Rabbids characters. I never played any of the XCOM games, but that's what people say. And I'll actually say when they announced this game during, I guess it was during E3, um, I was excited for it. I was like, oh man, that game looks awesome. It was like my like number one game revealed at that conference that I was excited about. I was very psyched for it. But then it was kind of not as good as I thought it was going to be. And I'm actually going to do an impressions video, so I don't want to reveal too much of what I think. But I'll just say it was a little bit disappointing and wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be. But I still enjoyed it. It's still a really fun strategy RPG. It's cool. I always like when two like different like completely separate universes collide like that. So in this case, Mario and the Mushroom Kingdom and like the rabbits that originated in Rayman. So I always like when two completely different universes come together. But it was still a fun game. I still enjoyed it, and that's why it's at number 3. But I probably expected it to be much higher on my list.
Yeah, so I mean, like how was that game difficulty wise? Because I mean, like RPG and Mario sometimes, like I know that there's been the Mario RPG, but
Right.
I don't know. Sometimes I just don't think those two like really mix. Like Mario is more like obstacle based. I always thought.
Well, yeah. I mean, traditionally Mario's a platformer game, but I mean, difficulty wise, it's not too bad. Basically, you can just play the game regularly, but before each battle they give you an option. It says if you want to play this battle on easy mode, hit Y now. um, which
Okay.
which I did most of the times, and I always admit that I'm a busy guy. I can't dedicate a whole lot of time to gaming. I work, I have a family and everything, so I if I can, I play games on the easy mode because I'm more into it for the story. So yeah, I did fight some battles on the regular mode, but majority of the time I did it on easy mode. So that's how they kind of deal with that. You can just play the game, or then if you're having problems with a particular battle, I guess you can go back and try it on the easy mode if you can't get by it on the regular mode. But there's no like difficult mode or anything like that.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of think that's a good mechanic to have, to be able to select the difficulty of the battle, because I've had many of those, especially certain boss battles that seems like you play them at a half a dozen times and you're no closer to than the first time to beating it. But being able to actually select like play this on a lower difficulty is a great option to have, because I'm like you. I like to play a lot of the games that I play for just the story mode, just to see how things play out.
Yeah, yeah. And it seems to be a new trend now where games let you change it during like the middle of the game. Like you could just randomly be like, "Oh, this is too hard. I'm going to switch it to easy mode." Whereas before, it would let you at the start of the game choose like, okay, easy, hard, or medium or whatever. But now it seems like games are letting you change whenever you want, which I think is a good idea. You could start to play a game and then realize like, oh, this is really hard. I'm gonna put this on easy mode. I think that's a really good option to have for games, especially RPGs.
Oh yeah, totally. I've noticed that with a few games that I played this year as well.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So definitely, like I said, it's a good game. I still really enjoyed it, but I think it was a little disappointing for me because I had higher expectations.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Well, we're moving right along here. Let's move on to your number 2 game.
Okay, my number 2 game is Final Fantasy 15.
Okay. All right.
I thought that this was a great game, and it's actually only the second Final Fantasy game I've ever played. The first being Final Fantasy X.
Okay.
But I mean, I really enjoyed it. I like the fact that I'm actually kind of torn on what I like better. Just free battling or turn-based battles. I think that there's pros and cons to both of those, but Final Fantasy 15 was just free battling. Really enjoyed the graphics of this game, especially the cinematics. I mean, I've said it many times on this podcast, but I love Square's cinematics and cutscenes that they do. They're always top notch. Love those, and the story of this game was really great. Loved playing it. One thing that I liked about the game too was that once you move to a certain point, they're like, oh, you can keep going, or you can go like back to the past basically, and like go do like more side missions and level up your characters. And that's one thing that I like to do in RPGs. I like to always have like as the strongest characters I can possibly have, so that when I do roll up on a boss battle, I can usually just roll right over them. In those cases, so I do like being able to gain a lot of XP and new items to level up my characters. The one thing that I didn't like about this game was the lock on with trying to fight, because you're fighting in the environment. Like sometimes you'll be driving along in the car that they give you, and like there will be enemies on the side of the road, so you get out, and a lot of times the enemies are like in trees and shrubbery and everything, and the camera gets blocked, and you can't tell what the main character Noctis is doing, and you're just wildly hitting buttons trying to attack these enemies.
Right. Yeah, that's I mean I picked up Final Fantasy 15. I haven't played it yet. I hope I like it. But at the same time, just hearing you talk about the combat system and the battle system, I'm kind of like, oh, I don't know if I like this, because I'm definitely more like, I like old school. I like turn-based JRPGs. For me, like, I enjoy that because I can sit there and kind of take my time and be like, okay, well, I'm gonna try this or this. Whereas in those more action-oriented RPGs, you can't just sit there and like think about it. Yeah, just have to go and fight. But I'm sure I'll still enjoy it. I mean, because I've played other action JRPGs and I still enjoy them. But if I had a choice, I'd prefer turn-based JRPGs. But
oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people really liked Final Fantasy 15. It definitely has its haters though too. I kind of take that with a grain of salt though, because I feel like those are the people that are kind of like, oh well, I didn't like that game because it's Final Fantasy 15 and I have to be different, and I can't like Final Fantasy games because they're too mainstream, man.
Oh yeah, totally. And another quick aspect I liked about the game was I always think that the music in Final Fantasy games is like amazing.
Oh yeah.
The instruments that they have, and I like the fact that you have this car, and there's different options in the game where you can purchase soundtracks from past Final Fantasy games, and and play those.
I think you told me about this before. That's a pretty cool option. I'd be rocking Final Fantasy 7 the whole time.
Oh yeah, that's what I was doing. I was rocking Final Fantasy 7 and Final Fantasy 10, the whole time in the on the radio in the car. So that was great.
Cool. Yeah, it's definitely one, I'll definitely play eventually. I just, I haven't played it yet. I haven't played a lot of games that came out this year. I guess probably the only one that I did play was Mario plus Rabbids,
Well, yeah, well, I mean, it sounds like, with you, it's pretty hard to sit down in front of, a TV with a controller console and play those. You're more, handhelds are more accessible for you.
Yeah, definitely. And that's the last couple years or so, I've really dived into the handhelds, and especially the Vita. I love my Vita. So definitely for me. I guess I could always try the remote play, but I haven't attempted it yet, But even still, like, I still feel like I have to go and turn on the PS4, unless you can do that remotely through the Vita too. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right, well, I'll move on to my number 2. Before I go on to my number 2, though, I realized while I was talking about Mario plus Rabbids, I called the company Xenosoft, but it's Ubisoft, of course. But I guess I was just thinking about Xenoblade. I played Xenoblade Chronicles this year, and I'll come out and officially say that was my least favorite game I played this year. I couldn't stand that game. I didn't like the battle system, and the game was too long. It's like, it took me like 91 hours to beat that game, and I just did not enjoy it. So yeah, Ubisoft, not Xenosoft. But anyway, I'll move on to my number 2 game, and my number 2 game I played this year was Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel 2, which I just beat not too long ago. I did an impressions video that's on this channel, so if you haven't watched that, check that out. But yeah, really cool game. I love the first game. This game is not as good, but it's still